welcome to the Big Apple School podcast. My name is Sam.
And my name's Katya.
And today we're asking what's the crack about books. Yeah, here we go. So we're going to find out whether it's important to us to read, what kind of books we have read as children, whether magazines and newspapers are valid for us. Is our libraries important now? Modern world, right? The best time for us to read during the day or night, maybe. Our favorite genres, favorite books, and whether a book is better than the film. Modern life. Is there room in modern life for serious book reading? Don't we just go on VK? So let's find out about that and whether or not what we're planning to read in the future, because assuming we do read books. So here we go. Katya, hello.
Hello.
So new to the podcast, tell us a little bit about you. Who are you?
Well, I am one of the teachers at the Big Apple School. I am originally from Russia, but I spent the last 2 years in Boston. Mm-hmm. And I'm here for just half a year. And in December, I'm going back to teach.
Okay. Okay, I think you've covered everything. Okay. Yeah. And I think one of your hobbies is reading books, I suspect.
It is. One of my few hobbies, actually.
Okay. Few as in negative?
As in two.
Two hobbies. What's your other hobby?
Watching TV shows. Can I say that it's a hobby?
I would argue it's a hobby. It's a pastime, at least.
Well,
maybe it depends how serious you do it. I mean, if you just watch TV, you're very serious about it. So I guess that's a hobby. I would argue it's a hobby. I claim films are a hobby for me. So if I can do that,
so far away. TV shows.
If I can do
that,
you can do TV shows.
Yay!
I allow it. You have my permission.
Thank you.
Is reading important to you? And what I mean is, what if you were illiterate? I'm not meaning that in a derogatory way, but what if I couldn't read?
Well, I think that if we were illiterate, we wouldn't know
right.
like the importance of books, how they can change our lives. Okay. But we are literate, so we read and we know how important they are. Well, for us, for you, maybe. For me, definitely. Because books for me are a way to... Well, actually, it's a way for me to escape the reality if I don't like it. It's a way for me to get motivation, inspiration, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And what about you?
So I like your point of view. Like a blind person, wouldn't appreciate, if he's born blind, wouldn't appreciate the beauty of the sky or the ocean or whatever.
Exactly.
And in that sense, books, if you never read one and never had the opportunity, you probably wouldn't appreciate. But yeah, they are very important to me. I read every day. It's one of the first things I do. Well, I, as a Christian, read the Bible every day. So first thing in the morning, cup of coffee. I always need my coffee. People know I need coffee.
I do too.
Nice coffee, even a nice coffee, and start reading a bit. So I start with Proverbs, which are, Proverbs from the Bible, which are quite wise and good. But without that, I mean, that's something special to me, and it's a nice time. I have a time to myself and to relax. And I often say that books are my music. And what I mean is that a lot of people listen to music to calm themselves, to shut out, to keep their mood, or improve their mood. And for me, music isn't such important to me. Books give me that sort of escapism or whatever. Or just an enjoyment and an alternative view.
Depending on the book, I guess. Yes.
Yeah. And maybe it's self-improvement. Maybe it's knowledge about the world. Maybe it's just to learn about a fantasy world, science fiction, whatever. But it's something like that. So how often do you read books?
I read every day. Well, I spend 3 hours to commute every single day, so I try to spend this time reading.
Yeah.
But usually in the morning, I can't make myself read anything serious.
Okay.
So that's why I go into the world of fantasy or something like that, so make my imagination work.
Who said fantasy isn't serious?
That is so true, actually. We're going to talk about that.
It's maybe an idea that's promoted by those who don't enjoy fantasy, I think. But I think it can be serious reading depending on the author.
That is so true.
You can learn a lot from...
And how much thought you put into what you read.
Yeah.
That is true. And also, I have this rule that at least once in a couple of days, I have an hour just to myself. I turn off my phone. I have a nice cup of coffee. And I just read a book. No emails, no calls, no messages, no social networks.
Wow.
Nothing. Okay. Just me and the book.
Have you tried that? You listening? Have you tried that? That's something that I respect. That. It's a good idea. In the modern world, what kind of books did you read as a child?
Oh, that's a tough question because, to be honest, until I was 12, I didn't read much. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I sometimes would enjoy going to a local library where I just roamed, around the shelves. Yeah. And the only type of book that I read at the time was detectives.
Okay.
Because they were like those detectives written especially for kids. Mm-hmm. And it was so cute and I loved them. Yeah. So I think that fairy tales, obviously, even at the time that I couldn't read much, I would just look at the pictures. So I guess those two. And then when I was 12 or 13, the world of fantasy was introduced to me, and that was the day my life changed forever. Yeah.
And you haven't looked back since?
I haven't. So no regrets.
You've good memories about that introduction?
Yes.
It was a good time, yeah.
What about you?
So my parents, I don't know if this is a unique thing or not, but my parents always had books. Lots of different kinds of books. Lottie the Littlest Reindeer. Mm-hmm. I mean, picture books and different kinds of books. Some based on Bible stories, some based on fairy tales, some based on Christmas. Lots of different stuff. Some that they had from their childhood, and some that were bought new for us, my older brother and I, when we were boys. And so either I was reading them, or my parents were reading them to me. Aww. And so I guess, from as early as I remember, books were involved. And it was a good time. I mean, it wasn't something, to be honest, it wasn't something that I might have done every single day. I might have had notions, like today I want to read, or this week I want to read. But I mean, as a boy, I watched a lot of TV. Mm-hmm. So I got my imagination going there. But I didn't. I have many happy memories of reading books myself.
Mm-hmm. I actually remember a story. So the thing is that we didn't have that many books for kids in our home. Mm-hmm. We didn't have many books in general. So every time when I was a kid and my parents took me to a dentist, they needed some kind of a reward for me being like, a good girl and not crying much. Right. So we would go to a bookstore and they would buy me, just one book. Yeah. We couldn't afford books. Right. So it was just one book. Yeah. Preferably
book per teeth. A book per tooth.
Exactly. Right. So
that's a good, Actually, it's sort of. I think in Sunday school, I would have went to Sunday school a lot on Sundays, and we used to get books there too. So that was kind of rewards as well. Mm-hmm. So a lot of bribery with books going on in our childhoods. Enid Blyton, I'll recommend this if you have kids or if you want to share anything with kids. Maybe 10-ish or so, maybe a little bit younger, maybe not. Enid Blyton, she has written about the Secret Seven, which are detective stories, a little group of kids that meet up and have a detective agency of their own. And
that's the kind of stories that I was reading.
They're quite good.
I have no idea who the authors were though, because I do not remember, but...
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the same person, but I really enjoyed those when I was a boy. And something called The Magic Faraway Tree, which is also Enid Blyton. Mm-hmm. And I really, really liked it because there were strange characters in it. There was a guy called Moonface, whose face was literally the moon. I mean, not the actual moon, but it was a replica of the moon. And there was a guy, Saucepan Man, who walked around, human guy, walking around with saucepans over his ears and head.
Because that's what you do, apparently.
And they all lived up this magic tree. And these kids, I don't, 3 or 4 maybe kids, I'm not sure, but they found this magic faraway tree. And so no one else knew about it, of course. and they had great adventures up climbing up this tree. You go into another world and great adventure. So I loved that when I was a boy.
I remember reading about the house in a tree in a books, and I was asking my parents, begging them, can we make the same? Do you know where we live? No, we could not.
No chance.
No chance.
Magazines and newspapers. Do you read them?
Oh, not.
You can say no.
Really, not really. The thing is that the only magazine that I read is the IELTS magazine, since I have students that I'm preparing for the exam. Yeah. So if I can say yes, I only read that, then yeah. What about you?
So you read one. I don't. Honestly, for me personally, it's not that I have anything against those who read newspapers or magazines, but generally speaking, I don't read them. Mm-hmm. For me, the fact that they are weekly or monthly, and there can be some significant reading involved, particularly in a magazine. Mm-hmm. My preference would be a book, because it's got more longevity to it. It's a more current, perhaps, less transient. It's there it's an established writing, whereas a magazine isn't always necessarily. It could go out of date.
It could,
in
pretty
a while.
Fast, actually. I would say.
So, and news. I mean, nothing wrong with reading your news. I tend to do it online, as I guess most young people do, right? Or if I can still categorize myself as young, I think so. I think so. For the moment. But I mean, generally, people don't read newspapers today, I think.
I don't think they do.
Older generation still have that desire, maybe some of them at least, but I think, I worked with a guy who 60-something, and his routine was to get a newspaper every day. Absolutely fine, great, good idea. That was his routine. He enjoyed it. He brought it to work, and when he had time on his break or whatever, he read through it.
I think it's not the love for newspapers, but just the thing that you're used to. So you just want to keep doing that. It brings you, stability into your life.
He had an interest in local events and in sport. Mm-hmm. And I suppose that was his simple way of doing it. But I'm like, that costs 50 pence or a pound, and that's over a week, that's maybe £5 or £6,
So I remember when I was in London, I got some newspapers, to learn English, to learn some new vocab. And that was definitely more than £1.
Right. It could be. You see, this is how much I read newspapers. The last time I bought one is maybe 50p. Probably now I guess it's now maybe 120 or something. Yeah. But for me, it's not my routine. Mm-hmm. I can see it online, and
exactly,
it's fine for those who want to do that. So talking about newspapers, and it's sort of a thing of the past. What about libraries? So we've got, online stuff now. You can find books online, whether or not you should. You can find, you can read on an e-reader or iPad or your laptop or whatever. Are libraries becoming a thing of the past? What do we need them for?
No, they are not. Well, at least not in Novosibirsk, and I can say that for sure, because the books are becoming more and more expensive. It's getting difficult to afford them, but I know for sure that so many people still prefer, the touch of the paper, the smell of, a newly printed book. But we have great libraries here that get new books every month or so.
Yeah, right.
So sometimes it reminds me of, a hunt when you want to read a certain book. You don't want to spend 1,000 rubles for that. So you're like, okay, I know that.
Can you search online in the library's database?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the thing. Yeah. So, and I personally go to libraries pretty often.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't think that they will be totally replaced.
Yes, right. Well, I agree with you, I think. Maybe not so. No, the UK may be a little bit different from Russia. I think books are more affordable for people based on wage and the price of books. But I still think that libraries have an appeal. And I'll tell you what a library needs to do. And any librarians listening, Samuel has spoken. Okay, so listen.
You can't ignore it now.
I watched, in preparation, a short YouTube video about libraries in Australia. And there is a particular library which is moving with the times. And it is making make space available. I think it's called make space. Spaces where people can come, and this is not so much about books per se, but it's a space where people can come, meet as like a club or a very loose, informal group, and come up with maybe ideas about technology, about science, projects, and things like that.
So it's not a library in the way we know it.
It's got it's moving with the times. It's got electronic stuff going on. It's making books available electronically, not just paper books.
Oh, that's what happens now as well in Nova Scotia.
So moving with the times, and it's happening in Nova Scotia, it's happening in Australia. And I in my own hometown, I haven't been to the library in a while, but they do have internet available. They have at least computers available. But I don't know, having not been there for a wee while, I don't know whether they have e-books available. But I would say if libraries do that, if they move with the times and don't say, well, we're a library, we must have just paper books and that's it. If they move with the times, there's a future for them. And I have a lot of good memories from libraries, so
same,
and you too. So
same.
So we're happy for them to stay.
I can see like the libraries developing. I would say, as you said, moving with the time. So now you can actually get a library card and get the ebooks on your phone. So just as easy
sent
as
to your phone, like.
Well, you have to download an app.
Okay.
And then from there,
So that's modern. That's I didn't know about that, so I'm impressed. Okay. What about bookshops?
You know, at some point I would say that they're getting less popular, but then I see the bookshops that open here, that open everywhere. But you know what I've noticed is that these days there's a tendency for them to have like coffee shops as well, like 2 in 1.
Yeah.
So you can go there.
So it's more of an experience.
Exactly. And you should not even you don't have to buy a book. You can just, take it from a shelf and read, and no one's going to say a word.
Yeah. Don't spill your coffee on it. Just
yes, you better not do that. You better not do that.
In the UK, unfortunately, I think there are some difficulties with bookshops. Chiefly because it's actually cheaper to order online. If you have a book in mind, you can order it online, you can get it cheaper, and you can get it quite quickly, 3 to 5 days by post.
You know, it sounds like Amazon in the US.
Amazon's in the UK too, and other websites,
People love bookshops, but when you think about the time, it's just too time consuming to go actually to the place.
If you have a book, well, for me, I mean, I honestly used to go to bookshops to look at the books.
That's what I do. It's my hobby.
And to just purely, the colours, the books, the titles, the idea of buying a book.
The covers, so different.
Just the idea of buying a book.
Yeah.
And then if I saw something I would like, this maybe is terrible, sorry, forgive me. But if I saw something that I'd like, I'd check online and see that it's...
Oh, we're all guilty of that.
It's cheaper online.
Exactly.
And I think, well, I like that bookshop, but I can get it cheaper online.
Yes, that's the reality of this
and why
world.
Should I pay more? And so, I mean, why should I pay more? I'm sorry. And in fact, the bookshop I'm talking about has since closed. And it's partly my fault, I guess.
So you're the one to blame?
Absolutely. All my fault.
Oh.
So it is a problem the bookshops have to address some way. Maybe they need to have an online availability as well. Maybe they need to move with the times too. What's the best time of the day for you to read?
There's no such thing as the best time. I mean...
Whenever.
Whenever I have a cup of coffee and can actually read. So
for me, it's generally the morning. More focused, more relaxed, maybe, and generally, my mind works better in the morning. I don't know. Not to say that I wouldn't read at other times of the day, but for me, it's generally
okay.
And at home, if we're talking about place, I know people, have romantic ideas about reading in the park and stuff, but you get distracted. I don't know.
You get distracted. The mosquitoes, the insects, whatnot. So I can't do that.
Yeah. Someone walks past and you're instantly distracted, whether they're interesting or not. You're kind of distracted for that moment, and yeah. I think it's at home. Realistically.
Or at a coffee shop. That's what I do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if it's geared for that and it's quiet enough. But still, for me, it would be at home more.
I mean, I feel like I've, honed the skill of being able to read wherever. Because several times I was waiting for a shuttle and I went to a bar just, to read there and have a drink, and that's it. And I didn't care about the noise, the music and whatnot.
Yeah.
I could still focus and,
zone it out and keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Your favorite genres. So you've mentioned fantasy.
And I stand by it. That's my favorite genre of all times.
By far.
Yes.
Have you really enjoyed any other genre?
I mean, I enjoy all the genres, but it's just fantasy has taken my heart.
It's by far the best for you.
It is.
Okay.
It is. What about you?
I would probably say that my most favorite is science fiction.
That would be my number 2.
Followed by fantasy. I also occasionally enjoy history. Anything else? I think those 3 would be my favorite genres. I have read others, of course. I've read classical literature and stuff. But I would say those 3 mainly are my favorites. Yeah. I do read some comics. I don't know. It could be put into either.
Well, I mean,
either of those genres.
I don't think that we can separate that as a genre. So because comics can be sci-fi comics, or fantasy comics.
They can be quite serious themes as well.
Yes.
Yeah, they can be biographical. So I have read some biographies too, and autobiographies.
I've tried reading those, but
if you read Mouse, I don't really want to delve too much into comics, but if you read Mouse, it's an autobiography in comic form, and it's prize winning, and it is very good. It's about a Holocaust survivor's life and about his son's life, and it's written by his son, and it describes their relationship as well, the kind of effect all of the trauma and difficulties had on their family.
Not a light read.
Not, in the format it's light, but in topics, it's not so. It's a bit dark. But there is quite a bit of humor in it too, so it's not pure darkness. There is quite a bit of humor in it too, so I would recommend that as far as that goes. Your 3 favorite books, can you describe them?
Favorite book? It's like asking a mother who's her favorite child. You don't ask questions like that.
I'm the favorite child. I'm joking. My mom would never agree.
Just hope that your mom does not hear this.
No, she knows I'm joking. It's a bit of crack. It's a bit of crack, Mom. She knows.
3 of my favorite books. Can I just tell you about my 3 favorite authors?
Yes.
Oh,
I'll allow that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, number 1, the love of my life is Terry Pratchett.
Familiar with this guy? Yeah.
You should be. Anyone who's not, please read anything and see if you like it. Like his books. He was an amazing man.
Yeah.
My number 2 would be Neil Gaiman.
I've also read him. Yes.
Well,
read
that's
good
to know.
Yeah.
And my number 3 is a Russian author, Max Frei.
Okay.
Don't know him. It's also fantasy, so you can see.
What book do you recommend from Max Frei? Max Frei?
Yeah.
How's he Russian? Frei, isn't that an English or American name?
Well, what about pseudonyms?
Ah, okay, it's a pseudonym, is it? So what?
I mean, I love Stephen Fry as well, but those fries.
I like an Ulster fry, or an Irish fry, or an English fry. It's better. Okay. What has he written that you recommend?
I would start with a book named Чужак.
Uh-huh.
So, because that's kind of an introduction.
Чужак mean?
I would say like a stranger, someone who does not belong.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's kind of an introduction to the whole series.
Right.
Like the setting, the place, and the time, and everything. So that's how you meet all the main characters.
Okay. And it's a world he has built, Max.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Is it a little bit like Terry Pratchett? We'll talk a second about him.
A little bit different. Actually, totally different. I am pretty sure that, well, I can't say no one, but very few people have done what Terry Pratchett has.
Right.
So, what about your three favorite books?
So, well, we should just for those who haven't read, we should talk a little bit about Terry Pratchett's work.
Oh, yes, please, let's do that.
Because they're also among my favorite books, particularly the Discworld series.
Yes.
I have read 3 of them. There are many, I don't know how many books, but they are a kind of a fantasy book. I mean, absolutely fantasy. An unusual world full of magic and wonder and interesting creatures and all kinds of hilarious events. And really, it's both imaginative and humorous.
Oh, the humor
unbelievably
there is
humorous.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's kind of sarcastic, dark humor at times, quick-witted. It is, I think it's a sort of commentary on life as well at times.
It is. While you're reading, you see so many allusions to real life, the places, the people, everything. And the thing is that if you choose to reread it, you see more every single time you reread it. So let's say the first time I read most of the books was when I was 17 or 18. Now, if I read the same book again, I see other things. Let's say, like golems. Before, I used to think of them as just as creatures. Now I see the allusion to, proletariat. I'm like, oh, wow, I've never thought about this. So you can see, the historical background of that.
Yeah, there's a depth to it as well.
There is.
I've read some travel writing, and there's a guy, Colin Thubron. We'll get his name written below, all being well, but it's a book in Siberia, and it's a quite unusual account of his travel through Siberia and kind of adventures he got up to and describing his journey and the place he went to, and it was enjoyable to read. And a classical one, Moby Dick by Herman Melville, and American, I believe he was, and it's a big book, it's a big commitment. I read it.
It isn't it? You have to commit yourself to it. I think I was 19 or 20 when I read it. I've since started to reread it, but it is so well written. I mean, it takes the time to build up, but particularly towards the end, I mean, it just, there's a crescendo, and no
the language,
spoilers, please.
And some of the language has actually been since used in even films. And I'd said to my friend like that, that's a quote from Moby Dick, and it was one of his favorite scenes and favorite quotes, and he was like, really? Wow. I mean, he was quite impressed, but the language is fantastic. From hell's deep I spit at thee, or something to that effect, and it's really, and it's in the film Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, which, if anyone likes Star Trek, that, although it's a bit dated, a bit old, it's absolutely, for drama, for theatricality, it is the best film in my opinion, the best of all the Star Treks. Forget your modern Star Trek, go to that one. It is the language, the drama and everything. It is by far the best.
I'll keep that in mind.
Is the book always better than the film? Yes.
Yes.
Have you read Harry Potter?
I am reading the 3rd book now, but I've watched all the films.
And based on the film?
I mean,
which is better?
Look, I don't think that I'm the one to comment on that, because I have crazy people around me who are like huge Harry Potter fans. Yeah. And if I say something wrong,
you'll be slaughtered.
Exactly.
No more
find my dead body somewhere in the alley. So we don't want that. So
no. Preferably not, no.
There's one exception though. Just several months ago, there was a TV show that came out, Good Omens, based on a book written by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. And this is the first time ever that I've watched something and said, wow, this feels exactly like I'm reading a book, word by word, like so good.
They're two great authors, Neil Gaiman. I read Sandman, his Sandman series.
Oh my God,
they are brilliant.
Brilliant.
He's
so true.
It's a comic again, but not superhero at all. It's more about existential ideas, about life, about philosophy, and it's very, very well written. He's a very talented author.
He is.
Anything from him is great as well. I have read The Hobbit, and that in particular, I read it before I watched the 3 films, and I did enjoy the first 2 films, particularly the first one. And then it got to the 3rd film and I was disappointed. Not that it's a terrible film. It's fine, it's good, but I mean, a lot of people didn't like them actually, but I had no problem with them per se, but having read the book, the book was emotional for me. I'm going to say that. And the film, not so much. So, and they had made some changes, which to me, I dislike. I mean, this is the problem, and poor directors, because they have a difficult job trying to dramatize.
And also trying to fit everything.
Yeah. The format of a book and the format of a film is different.
Totally different, yes.
And so they're trying to make it an entertaining watch. I mean, you can read something and enjoy it, but if you saw the same thing visually, you'd be like, this is boring.
Yes.
So they're trying to translate that, and it's not an easy job, but unfortunately the changes in the film compared to the book disappointed me, and it didn't have the same effect. So yes, in my experience, from majority of time, the book is better. Is there room in modern life for serious book reading? We've alluded to this already, I think.
I mean, we have to define what a serious book is then.
Well,
do you mean classical
serious
books?
Not serious book, but serious time, or serious, spending a chunk of your day, not by force, but by choice. Reading that book that you have on your list.
That's becoming more and more of a problem. Because in this self-improvement craze that people are experiencing now, they just don't want to devote just part of their day to just reading, because they're like, no, I need something that will bring more result into my life, something that will improve me. So it's controversial, I would say.
Sometimes we can be impatient.
Yes, I feel like this is what we are these days. We need more information in a shorter amount of time.
Maybe we have so much going on and so much information hitting us that it's difficult to sit down, switch off and read a book, because it takes a bit of concentration. It does. And so I think, my opinion is, if you want to, you will do it.
That is so
But
true.
maybe many people choose not to. That's the simple.
Well, yeah, it's,
So it's really up to you. It's up to you listening. It's up to you whether you want to read seriously or not. Okay.
We won't judge if you don't.
If you don't, it's okay. Email us if you don't, though. What book are you reading now or planning to read?
So I am always reading 2 books at a time. One of them non-fiction and one of them, a piece of fiction.
Right.
So a fiction book that I'm reading now is actually Sandman, Part 2.
Right.
Because I adore Neil Gaiman. And the piece of non-fiction that I'm reading currently is about how to fit more into those 160 hours a week that we have.
Okay.
So,
any lessons you've learned so far from that?
The one that I have is that we have more time than we think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll let you know
how
it goes.
You and I have more time than we think.
To read.
Maybe to read, yeah. So
What about you?
maybe it's more about management than anything.
Maybe.
Sirens of Titan is on my list, purely because it was recommended. by Goodreads, actually, which I use.
Oh, I love this app.
I use that. Oh, I use the website. And it was recommended to me based on what I have read. And so that's on my list. Don't know what it will be like. I think it could be all about life and philosophy and science fiction at the same time. Maybe it will be humorous. I don't know. But that's something I plan to read in the near future.
That's good.
So there you are. That was the crack about books. We talked all about our experience, whether it's important to us to read, what we did as a child regarding books, what is relevant nowadays in the modern world and books, the best time, the best genres, and our favorites. So that was the crack about books.